out to me though.
So good luck, Noah. Good
No,
luck to
thanks.
everybody else.
Welcome to the April 24th meeting of the Rotary Club of Jamestown. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, singing our national anthem, and repeating the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible.
Hello.
Liberty and justice for all.
Oh, great, thanks.
Oh, so sing, smile in the dance, waiting for what's Let's repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Our invocation today is by Walt Pickett.
Thank you. I was reading that magazine shows up every once in a while. Was it Rotary? I was once again impressed by teamwork on an international scale. Who believes in teamwork? I thought so. However, there's one step even beyond believing it. When you experience it, it's another whole thing. And so naturally, I was inspired by Yogi Berra. He said, "What time is it?" "You mean now?" But what he also said was, "Let's have some teamwork, pair up in threes." Well, that's Yogi. However, my invocation is about teamwork and the experience, not just the belief. Please, in your own heart and mind, share this with me. We offer thanks, O Lord, today for our food, for the blessings, for one another, and for our absent friends, whether far away or departed. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for our opportunity to serve in Rotary and in our community. And let us experience love, kindness, and well-directed, gentle spirit ways reflected in our thoughts and deeds. We thank you for these experiences. Amen.
Thank you, Walt. Please welcome President-elect Russ Guzman Dean to announce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, President John. Okay, today we are very pleased to have Aaron Wadden with us, the new director of UCAN and a guest of Sharon Hamilton. And also Marilyn Fiore-Lehman, who is a former member who is visiting us today. So glad to see you.
Welcome. Some announcements. As always, many thanks to Rotary yours reporter Rudy and Laura, the communications committee, for all you do to keep the club informed. Books and Bibs fundraiser, May 8th, closing in fast on the fundraiser drawing. So please sell your tickets. If you're not going to sell them, bring them in, turn them into Lynn or Jody or Ruth, and we'll get those sold. So please sell your tickets. We're coming up on the deadline fast. 50/50 sign up. Yeah, Lynn? Turn any unsold tickets to Lynn, and she will still take any of those sold. 50/50 sign up is going around, so please sign up. Easy way to serve. May 8th, Lisa Bishop, our district governor, will be here, so please plan on attending. She's going to give us a talk for 15-20 minutes. Hands-on Jamestown is May 20th, so that's another opportunity for Rotarians to clean up. I know all you Rotarians that missed the highway cleanup and are looking for pick up some debris and trash. You got another chance coming up. And Rotary Readers, Bush Elementary School. Sign up online or see Diana Meckley. There's a couple slots left, thanks to those who already signed up. And Ruth, any announcements for you today?
Thank you, John. So the first announcement I have is so this Saturday from 2 o'clock until sunset, the JCC International Club is doing a picnic and a hike at Allegheny State Park. And so they are inviting all Rotarians to be a part of it. This will be a easygoing hike, a walk in the woods. So I'm going to send around a sign-up sheet because they also are hoping that 5:30 to have for the meal, and then hang around for sunset or head out, whichever your preference. But those of you, Max can also tell you, these are just amazing people, and we'd love to have you come and meet them and learn more about them. They are just for their address. I would appreciate it. So I'll send this green piece of paper around. It says it's confidential, but don't worry about it. And then I also wanted to remind people, it's in your program, that May 2nd, next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday is the new DEI meeting. And the vision meeting will be Friday, May 5th. That's a change from our norm. So those are the two upcoming meetings. So that I wanted to let people know. And I think I have one more. Oh, yes, please. I think all of you received something from District 7090 about upcoming club training assemblies. And you may say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me. But on Thursday, May 4th, starting at 7, there's club training for specific positions, president-elect, club secretary, club treasurer training, club membership training, public image, and foundation training. Even if you're not currently doing this or even expected or agreed to do it for next year, please, if those are things you're interested in, I encourage you to go to this district training so you learn more about it. Would love to have more people know a little bit more about what is expected of a club secretary. Lisa would love to have an assistant club secretary. So if this is something you think you could help Lisa with, please let me know or let Lisa know and attend. And if you can't let us know, just attend anyway. I will probably send out another email sort of with the links and stuff. And then Saturday morning is the club training assembly for different themes. So how to have a vibrant club meeting. I'll attend that one, so to help out next year. Mental health, which is a theme for next year. Cluster grants for those who are interested. Service projects, membership, successful fundraising, and Rotary are the subjects for Saturday morning. love to have clubs members participate in some of those. So I'll pass these things around, but there's also.
It's all Zoom.
Yes, it's all Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And now for a special announcement from Vince Horgan and Max Miller. If you guys should come up and give us a. Mike Roberts, Tim, come on down.
All right, now you can applause. Come on, Silver, go, come on. All right. So, Mike, you're a past president, right?
I am.
What kind of fundraiser did you do when you were past president?
We had an auction.
You had an auction. Tell me the best thing about the auction you remember.
I would say it was the teamwork that it took to make it happen. Because it is all hands on deck.
I remember that. A little round of applause for that. Come on, now, that's good. All right.
Back then I invited my friends to an adult beverage dinner before the auction.
Oh, yeah. Adult beverages always help the bidding. Yes. Tim, you were past president. Tell me about it.
Well, Vince, we had an auction.
Oh, you did. We did. What was the best thing about the auction? Do you remember?
The best thing is I got to know all my fellow Rotarians that I didn't know, and we got to roll our sleeves up and just work, and totally forgot why I joined Rotary. The auction, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, the auction. You know, when I was past president, we had an auction. And I remember one of the neatest things was when the mayor of Jamestown made dinner for everybody. That went for $5,000.
Awesome.
I got food poisoning, but other than that, it's going to be awesome. So at any rate,
This is no Sam Teresi though. This guy can cook.
oh, no. Okay, stand by, Mayor. Max, what do you have to say?
I'm really not too sure why I'm standing with these guys up here, but it sounds like there's an auction.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring back the auction. We're gonna bring it back next spring. We're gonna find out, we're gonna get our heads together and look at the best location, the best format for it. We've already talked to important people that have things to do with that, and we think we're on the right track. We want to raise 20+ thousand bucks. We want to go back to where this club is totally engaged. And I just look, we have 92 members. What a great turnout today, but where are the other 60? So we want to get people involved, and all you need to do is do things. Well, 3 things. Number 1, you got to bring friends, non-Rotarian friends who are bidders. Number 2, you got to get an item. You got to get something for us to auction off. And we're not talking about your kids' used tricycle. We're talking about good stuff that we can auction off. Number 3, you got to buy the bidders a cocktail. Okay, that's important. So we're going to bring it back. The club, the board is behind this. Is that right, John? Okay, and Ruth, yep. So we think it's going to be a great time to really energize this club. And if you were a member way back when we had the auction and you were on the auction committee, raise your hand. If you were on the auction committee, okay, put your hands down. For everybody else, welcome to the auction committee. Good job, Vic.
Thank you, Vince, Mike, Jim, looking forward to getting that going. And Max is here to tell us about another fundraiser.
Well, they're properly called fundraisers, but when I sent in my proposal, I spelled it as fundraisers. So we're gonna be raising some funds while raising some funds, all right? This idea comes from one that went up in Mayville a couple months ago. And what it is, it's a mini golf bar crawl. We could do it right here in downtown Jamestown, pick some of our favorite venues, some of our favorite attractions here in town. And the gentleman who ran the event already has 5 pre-made golf holes that he will loan us to use for the event. So we have 5 there. We could get a few more if needed. I have a very detailed proposal if anybody would like to see it. But I will need help with this. I'm looking to get a team together, and we're shooting for some time in the winter, so date to be determined. But looking for help. So if you're interested, let me know.
Thank you, man. So we got two good fundraisers coming up next year. The mini golf in the winter, and then spring, we have the auction. So a lot to look forward to and a lot of work to do for the fundraisers. New member inductions, Emily Gama and Rita Freeborough. Fellow Rotarians, it is my privilege and pleasure today to welcome into membership in our club, Emily Kama and Rita Freeborough, whose names were proposed by Chris Anderson and Diana Meckley. This proposal has been reviewed in accordance with our club bylaws, and I invite you to join me up front. Emily and Rita, we now proceed to admit you into membership in the Rotary Club of Jamestown, New York, and the fellowship of 32 other plus Rotary clubs throughout the world. In your orientation, you've learned the ideal of Rotary is service to others. Their principal motto is service above self. The primary objective of our club and all Rotary clubs is to encourage and foster this ideal. We are confident you will share in this effort. You've been approved for membership in our club, and we believe that you'll be an outstanding representative of your vocation, who subscribes to the ideals of Rotary and who is willing to share in translating these ideals into effective action. You agreed to accept the obligations of membership in this club, to obey our constitution and bylaws, and be actively engaged members. You've also learned about our specific committees, projects, and other aspects of our club's culture. During your orientation, we're eager for you to put your gifts and talents to work alongside your fellow Rotarians. And now I have the pleasure of asking your sponsors to pin on the Rotary emblem and to present you with the membership plaque. We hope you display with pride. Fellow Rotarians. But Jim was actually the sponsor. Sorry about that. I'm not prepared.
But he's been out of
I can't even get the film out. We didn't know Jim would be back. So Jim is Emily's sponsor.
Like. I'm holding it out. I don't want to be. Wherever, that's my finger, but.
Fellow Rotarians, I am happy to present to you Rotarian Emily Kama and Rita Freeborough, our newest members. Welcome to the Rotary Club. And I ask your sponsors to share a little information and background.
Welcome to the auction committee.
So I'm pinch hitting for Jim. We weren't sure he's going to be here today, but I'm glad he is here and he was there to pin on the pin. So Emily grew up in Chautauqua County and graduated from Sherman Central School in 1996. She went to Grove City College and graduated with a bachelor's in education. She taught 5th grade for 7 years in Denver, Colorado, woohoo, where she met her husband, Jim, who currently teaches at Lincoln Elementary School. They enjoyed hiking and skiing under the big blue skies of Colorado, but after having their first child, they moved back to Western New York to be close to family because Emily's parents, Herb and Charlotte Rice, still live in the area. She was a domestic CEO, otherwise known as a stay-at-home mom, and waitress part-time until 2019 when she received her real estate license. She now works full-time as a full-time realtor with ERA Team VP Real Estate and teaches a fitness class at the YMCA 3 days a week. Emily first got involved in Rotary through Youth Exchange. As many of you know, she was Yoa's first host mother. Thank you, Emily and Jim, for hosting Yoa. Her 5 with Yoa, children and involvement in the community keep her busy, but she looks forward to her Rotary membership and getting to know all of you. Welcome, Emily.
Well, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce Rita Freeborough as a returning member of our club. Rita was born and raised in the steel town of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And while attending Penn State University, she met a guy named Boyd Freeborough. They married in 1982, And Boyd was in the ROTC program, Navy at Penn State, and was a naval officer for 22 years. In the duration of military life, Rita and Boyd moved 15 times. Beautiful places such as Newport, Rhode Island, Virginia Beach, San Diego, Jacksonville, Florida, and Howell, New Jersey. That part of New Jersey with the lovely horse farms. While the couple were living in Jacksonville, Rita pursued her Master of Education degree at the University of North Florida. She majored in guidance counseling with a specialty of career guidance. Rita had the opportunity to work in a variety of settings to offer career and employment counseling. Some of the work settings were in high schools, colleges, rehabilitation hospitals, the military, and other rehabilitation programs. She said it was wonderful working with individuals with diverse backgrounds. She also was active in her field, was president of the National Employment Counseling Association, conducted workshops and presentations all over the United States. Rita is now retired after a very fun and successful career. She enjoys traveling. She's visited countries on pilgrimage tours, including Poland, Spain, Slovakia, Austria, Ireland, Czech Republic, and Hungary. And she's still traveling. In fact, she just got back from a trip from Sedona. And in September, she's planning to go to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. Now, an important part of Rita's chapter here is 2 years ago, in the wee hours of Valentine's Day morning, Rita's husband had a brain aneurysm and passed away. Despite the hard and unexpected times that followed, Rita is now ready to get back to the people and community that has so tremendously supported her during those tough days. Rita is active and enjoys exercising, walking, golfing, and she's also learning to scrapbook with her 80-year-old neighbor friend. She lives in her log home with her dog Peppy and a few cats who are forever mischievous. And her log home is in Sugar Grove, by the way. Rita says it's wonderful being a part of Rotary with amazing people. And Rita has, of course, selected the vocational committee. And I'm not sure, did you pick another committee yet? Okay, the auction committee. And so please join me in welcoming Rita to our club.
Thank you and welcome. Carrie, do you have a youth services announcement?
Yep, just real quick. I know there's been a lot going on. First thing I did want to say was I was an auction chair and I'm really excited about the auction. My youth services announcement is that Yoa will be doing his presentation next week. So it's a don't miss meeting. I think you need to want to hear about where he comes from. And also I received word that we will be getting a boy from Brazil next year. So if you know of anybody who's interested in hosting in the Southwestern District, please let me know. I don't know much about him. That's all I know so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. 50-50, please get your tickets ready for Melissa Myers, 50-50.
Right, we have $53.
53 to the winner.
Right. Last four digits, 0314.
0314. 0314. Good, congratulations. Mark Conrad.
Hey, good to be back. Good boy. Well, people are still coming out of hibernation, so there are not a lot of people to recognize today. A couple are missing. But in today's Gazette, Sharon, you're on the roundabout page for Zonta Luna Fest. Good job, keeping active. And I have to dig deep, and when I start going deep, I go down to water mains under the ground, and that brings up Becky here because it's main flushing time, so she's here to get all your water royally. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And beside that, we do have some money to put in the pot right there. Thank you. Dewey and Mark have to leave early. Jim was just grateful to be a Rotarian, and our other Jim was very generous as returned from Snowbird Land. So that is good. We were talking about Rotary membership today. We have 2 new members. And that reminds me of Rotarian magazine. And gee, Becky, in regards to Rotary in general, is our membership growing or declining? Not this club, in general. We're seeing a lot of volunteer challenges these days. What does your table believe? Yes. Wrong, pay up. According to the Rotary magazine, Rotary is now getting back to the upsurge and will soon be back to where it was with 1.2 million members. So, okay. And speaking of teammanship and auction committee, and welcome from Penn State. We will be recognizing Penn State in the fall. You have other alums here in the club, but if you look at the Rotary President's column in the current edition, what does she say in her year of experience that she's traveled throughout the world is the single most important factor in member satisfaction? Bill Calla, you're looking with great intensity. Your table, your table. What is the single most factor?
Yeah.
Clock's ticking here. Close. I'll take it. How at home one feels in one's club and how engaged one is in that club's projects. Got it. See, so I said, I take it. So there we go. So, you know, that's the most important factor in Rotary membership is this club and it's everything. So are there any happy bucks, Dad?
Any quick happy bucks? I just want to recognize real quick highway cleanup on Saturday. It was Earth Day, so we got out there, 11 brave Rotarians. We squeezed in between the rain from 9 about 10:15. So thanks to everybody that came out and cleaned up highways. We got probably the best looking stretch of 86 we have. So thank you.
So I won't be here next week because it is National Small Business Week next week, and we've got a lot of events going on. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is that we nominated Hector from the Hotspot for a national award, and he is being named the Small Business Administration Minority Person of the Year next week during. Please go to the Hotspot next week.
I got a happy buck. It was Earth Day Saturday for highway cleanup, but Sunday, there was a major tree that had fallen down, was an eyesore to me looking across the street. Finally, somebody came and got their chainsaw and removed and chopped up that entire tree. I said, who could that be? No. Melissa and Dave Myers, thank you for that work.
Well, last Monday, after our Rotary meeting, there was a rumor going around that Sally Martinez fell. But Sally Martinez didn't fall. I have this happy buck because she did a plank, guys.
I was impressed.
Woo.
I got two happy bucks.
Okay.
Number one is for Emily, because I took classes, dance fusion class. This is very hard for me, but she's good. And for being a new member, and also I'm happy to be back to the Rotary.
I have you bucks are for the new members, and sorry that I was not able to introduce Emily to the club. You've all seen her, you've all had a chance to meet her. I'm just so happy to have her be a member because she lives right across the street from it. And they're just wonderful neighbors to have in the neighborhood, so we're just really happy to have her in the club.
You know that we get away. We live in Mexico. And where we stay is called Vidanta. And that is in Nuevo Vallarta, which is just north of Puerto Vallarta. Now, if you're busy next weekend, I'm so sorry. But I would take a chance on Saturday and Sunday to watch Channel 4 and the golf tournament because it is the Mexican Open and it is at our winter home course where the morning I broke my hand, I shot a 45 for 8 holes and got 2 pars. So, bravo.
I wasn't able to be here last week, but last week was National Volunteering Week. I don't know if you saw that maybe on social media. And so I thought it might be a great time to recognize all the volunteers in our community. There's so many volunteers and people who generously give on boards and in agencies and service clubs like this one. So my happy buck is for volunteers. I also want to thank all of the people who volunteered for United Way this last month, bagging groceries at Wegmans. You know who you are. They are the smallest store in their region, but they were the first store to meet their goal because we have so many volunteers.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mike Roberts for buying me lunch today. Thank you, Mike.
I have 3 happy bucks. First, don't forget it, golf tournament, June 17th. I promise July 17th. Thank you, July 17th. I promise the weather will be a lot better outside, so don't look at that. Second one is for the 2 new members. We're very happy to have you guys, so welcome. And then a third is I didn't get to put it in the last couple of weeks, but a few weeks ago, I got to check a major bucket list item for me, something that I want to do since I was a little kid. And I went to a Monday practice round at the Masters and I had a great time with it. So,
It is my pleasure to welcome Steve Sandberg to introduce today's speaker.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Eddie Sundquist. He is a native of Jamestown, New York, graduated from Jamestown High School and St. John Fisher College. While teaching in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he earned his Master of Science degree in Education from the University of Pennsylvania. He returned to Western New York in 2012 when he was accepted into the University of Buffalo School of Law program. While at UB Law School, Eddie was an advocate for children and families, working with the Buffalo community to develop alternatives to school suspension and discipline programs. Eddie received his Juris Doctorate in 2015 from the University of Buffalo Law School and returned to Jamestown to practice with Lewis and Lewis. Eddie was elected mayor of the city of Jamestown in November 2019, and he became Jamestown's 25th mayor in January 2020. Eddie.
Thank you, everyone. Can you all hear me? Excellent. And as Steve said, I took office January 1st, 2020, and the world went to hell in a handbasket. So very short. I don't know if they're connected. I don't. I'm honored to be here today to talk to you all a little bit about our homelessness initiatives here in the city of Jamestown. And I want to just take a step back and talk to you about where we were as a city, where we are now, and where we are going with it. As a city, we started seeing probably about a year ago, and many of you probably noticed something we had not seen in a very long time, or even if ever. We started seeing homeless encampments throughout our Riverwalk area, underneath our viaducts. And really, we believe it was a combination of issues that occurred from the end of the pandemic or towards the end of the pandemic. You started to see issues with evictions taking place. It was the lifting of the rental eviction moratorium. And you started to see more people appear in Jamestown, more people willing or less willing to take shelter and more willing to be outdoors than anything else. It really caused a perfect storm for the city, which was something that we had not had to deal with in a long time. As you all know, we've got some incredible shelters that already exist here. In fact, got the executive director of one of them, the UCAN mission, which serves our male population here in the city. They saw a huge increase at the time of individuals using that shelter, and they were mostly full. We also have one additional shelter for women in domestic violence, but we don't have any dedicated shelters for women currently. We don't have any dedicated shelters for families. And these were the populations we started seeing on our streets. So besides dealing with the pandemic, we started to deal with homelessness here in the city. And we recognized that by the time we got to getting everyone together, we were going to have to deal with the winter. And I don't know if this is a good day to see the snow flying outside. It really should be spring, but we got very concerned as a city and said, what do we do? How do we try to tackle this issue? But not just the city. How do we do this together? So we have a homeless coalition in Chautauqua County, made up of a bunch of resource providers that get together and try to help solve some of the problems. I first went to those folks and had a conversation with them and tried to raise the flag that, hey, this is becoming an issue. We are going to see an increase in homelessness. To give you a little understanding of the magnitude, we have on average about 25 individuals that they do a census of homelessness here in the city. We were finding encampments of up to 70 people each during the height of our homelessness issue here in the city. So almost 3 times the number that we would normally see homeless in our city last year. When we started to bring together our homeless coalition, our resource providers, we also started calling together all of our faith-based groups. And I'm going to tell you what I told many of our churches the first day we brought them all together, which was, please show me a religion that doesn't say help those in need. Show me a religion that says we need to be compassionate to others that are without. And I asked our church groups to help step up. I asked our resource providers to help step up and try to work through this so that we could try as a city together to collaborate and deal with our homeless issues, at least during the winter. Because we did not want to be a city that saw people frozen on the street. We did not want to be a city known for those types of issues. And I was really proud of the churches and the groups that came together and helped to open the county's first emergency homeless shelters. Here in the city, we opened up the first ones under what was called the Code Blue program. Code Blue is a statewide program that provides funding for organizations to open their doors overnight for warming shelters in order to keep people overnight so that they don't freeze. Anytime the temperature gets below 32 degrees, those Code Blue shelters have been activated and people could go into those shelters for the evening. We had 2 organizations that helped to step up to provide the space. That was the Joy Fellowship Church and the Mental Health Association. Both organizations stepped up and helped us through the winter timeframe. We had about 30 beds that we were able to do. We were able to do about 10, a little less than 10 at Joy Fellowship Church, and the rest at the Mental Health Association. Individuals could stay overnight, and they could, wake up the next day, get some breakfast, take a to-go pack, and continue with their day. In some cases, for example, Joy Fellowship Church also had some fellowship on certain days and allowed individuals to, be able to not only participate if they wanted to in some Bible study, but also have some communion. By communion, I mean getting together, right? Some fellowship with one another. And that Mental Health Association, which already does daily programming, allowed their individuals to also be a part of their program. So it really created something unique. The city went out and we got about $190,000 to help open up these shelters, and the state picked up the rest of the tab to open up the shelters during the winter. Now, why these were important is because they were able to take individuals that we may not have shelter for. Joy Fellowship Church was able to take families. They were also able to take co-ed shelters. We do not have those currently. Same thing with MHA. What they would do is they would work with one another. If we had a family staying, they would stay at Joy Fellowship Church. And if we had singles or individuals, they would stay at the Mental Health Association, and vice versa. They would move people between the two. It was truly a lifesaver here in the city. And I just want to share with you some of the statistics of what these two organizations did during their time. This was from December 20th to March 18th. This is their statistics. Joy Fellowship Church hosted a total of 77 nights they were open. During that time, the average guest per night was about 6 or 7. They had 64 guests during that time frame. There's 77 nights, average being 6. Of those 77 nights, 4 of those nights were closed to singles just to accommodate families with children. They had children staying at their shelter that were out on the streets with their families. We also have, which was really an interesting statistic from Joy Fellowship Church, of the 64 guests, 6 became residential volunteers that actually worked to help the shelter, right? That's incredible. And with our other shelter, I got a chance to learn that UCAN actually had individuals that were staying at their shelter employed by the Mental Health Association shelter. So some of UCAN's members actually got paying jobs to help work at those shelters. The Mental Health Association had 114 individuals that they served. That was 437 visits overall. They served 83 males and 36 females in their time there. So it's clearly showing a need for not only a women's shelter, but additional sheltering overall in the city. Something, again, the city hadn't had to do before, right? We would support organizations, we would help, but we had to take a direct role to help bring people together and collaborate. Now, one of the things that I thought was really interesting that we noticed a trend, once we actually opened up the shelters, we saw a very, very steep drop in crime in the city, correlated with the opening of that first shelter. So it's a very interesting thing because it brings up the fact that as we look at crime overall in the city, what we are really looking to target is poverty. And how do we address some of the issues of poverty, one of them being housing here in the city. So with that, we're continuing to work with our shelters and our organizations to figure out what's the next step. We do know that the number is not as large as we saw last year. That number has decreased, although we don't know what it's going to look like as the weather starts to get better. As we start to see some of the snow finally go away, we are anticipating we're still going to see a higher than normal population of homeless here in the city. But we need to continue to work with our organizations to figure out how we're going to handle that. But together, city in hand with our organizations, that's how we're going to try to make it happen going forward. So with that, I will open up. We have a couple minutes for questions for anyone that has potential questions about homelessness. I think I covered it all. I'm sure there's lots more. It could go on for about another hour, but you'll be tired of me after that.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but do you know how much it is to just open for one night?
The total cost of one night?
Yeah.
I don't have the total cost of that overall. It was, we provided, the city had 194,000 total that we received from HUD. We used all of that to open up and operate both shelters because the state did not approve those until the end of the winter time.
I assume you give meals too, not just beds.
They do, yes. So they were provided beds. They were also provided some basic meals. MHA partnered with the soup kitchen, which was right in their same vicinity, and Joy Fellowship basically took donations and they provided and allowed their guests to make some of the meals. They had a small kitchen on site.
Was there any correlation between the significant drop in the temperature or in inclement weather and the number of people that came?
Yeah, there was. The colder the nights, you saw more people show up. Less cold nights, there were less people at the shelters. But there was a pretty steady flow when we got right into the middle of winter, where it stayed consistently cold. The shelters were pretty much full during those periods. It certainly could have, yeah. Yep.
Mayor, with all the cool stuff going on with the Checkpoint, Riverwalk, Comedy Center, what's the city's policy on homeless encampments near the bridge or out there? From the standpoint of law enforcement, et cetera.
Yep. So you can't camp in our parks. Don't try it. So that is not part of the city code. I think the toughest thing is when we first saw encampments in the city, the hardest thing, even for me as mayor, to say, okay, let's just clean them all out, right? Because I do have a heart, right? And I think many of us do have a heart. What we started to see was people that wanted to help, and they would bring food, they would bring shelter, they would bring blankets, clothes directly to the Riverwalk areas. And that caused individuals to stay there more. So we had to have a lot of conversations with organizations that were bringing food directly to the viaducts to say, hey, we're not opposed to you providing food, but we need you to move them to other places, right? And so those organizations did. And once we finally established the shelters, those organizations started to bring things to those shelters. And it was quite successful. That way we could monitor some of that work. But I will tell you that our policy is to move those individuals along. In fact, our police officers and our other city employees have done that. They're all instructed to do that with dignity as much as they can. So they're not just going out and just clearing things out. They're asking people to take what they have. They give them time to pack up and to move along. Yeah. Yes, well.
I don't remember if this was 30 or 40 years ago. I'm sure the numbers have changed by now, but back then, Billy Graham once challenged churches across the country by saying, if each church cared for 3 homeless families, the entire national social welfare system could just about disappear. What a wonderful idea. I'm sure a lot of people would like to help, but if I wanted to convince my church to do that, is there a how-to manual? Have you developed a guide or something so that rather than just say, let's go reinvent the wheel ourselves, how is this done?
Yeah, so there's no how-to guide, but every church had something a little bit different they could help with, whether that was through food, whether that was through backpacks, whether that was through clothing. What we do is we referred all of those churches to one of the 2 shelters or to both shelters. And those shelters then went to the churches and say, here's what we need. So our biggest issue was for many of our churches is that we asked churches to support, but we really weren't quite sure what that support was going to look like. Once we established the 2 shelters, they could concretely say, we need breakfast bars, we need backpacks, we need blankets. And so that is what we've done, which is referred those to those shelters. We've also referred churches to the Homeless Coalition of Chautauqua County, which is a bunch of organizations that are doing this work and could also provide information on what do they specifically need to help our population.
Hey. Question on all of the numbers that you just spoke to.
there a date that HA is gonna stop taking people in May? So, all the numbers that just mentioned. How many of them have gone on to have homes, or what does the future look like for all the people once that HA happens until the next 30?
Okay. MHA is still actively open. They're one of the only Code Blue shelters that are still open. Joy Fellowship did have to close. Places like, for example, last night, the temperature did dip below 32 degrees, so they could accept people. They are finalizing all their statistics. What I gave you was kind of the early numbers that we had. I don't have an answer for what's next. I think we've been trying to get people together to understand where does this go and how do we support and what are the numbers going to look like. We don't have an answer for that. But MHA is continuing, and they can go as long as the temperature is dropped below. We anticipate till the potentially beginning of May, depending on the rest of the weather. But they will have to close shortly because May is usually the tipping point.
My question was kind of similar, but is a similar plan then going to be in place for next year?
Yeah.
And the same locations?
Yeah, so there's part of the Code Blue funding is the state accepting a plan for it. So the shelters were 2 additions. For those that may or may not know, the county for homelessness initiatives during these times typically put people up in hotels or motels, or they may send them other places depending on needs. So these shelters were an alternative to our hotels and motels, which were at one point saying we're not taking anyone anymore. So we were left with people that had no place to go, with recommendations to send them to Buffalo or send them other places. But the state did approve the plan back in March to include both Joy Fellowship and MHA, and both have committed to run them again for next year.
Is there a plan for the county to calculate cost savings of opening the warming centers versus vouchering hotels and hotels? So they can sort of show.
I don't know if the county has a plan to do that right now. We could certainly speak to them about it. I know they've been looking at it, but there's been nothing formally from them about the overall cost.
Is there any sort of follow-up with the individual? What happens to the individual affected family?
Yep.
What happens after? Is there tracking? Is there a way to prevent future need for these types of facilities?
Yeah. So with the shelters, that was also an opportunity for resource providers to go in and talk to those families, to talk to those individuals. Places like MHA have a built-in network of peers and support. And so many of those individuals were also receiving services by the Mental Health Association. Joint Fellowship, they did have other resource providers come in and have conversation with those families. In some cases, those families were from out of town and they were helping them provide funding to get wherever they were going. But there is some after support. There is tracking. We're trying to put all those numbers together now, but the home place, but we're still trying to figure out what are the final numbers for our usage.
Does any